What's going on, everybody? Well, it was clear this morning that owner Jerry Jones woke up, brushed his teeth, washed his face, and just decided he was just going to rattle the NFL today and trade it for George Pickens. How about them Cowboys, man? Finally, something that is exciting. It's exciting. Let's talk about it next on Cowboys Spit.
Here we go! Yeah, here we go! Wait, take
Cowboys
Throws back of the end zone. There's CeeDee
What's going on, everybody? Cowboy C3. Look, I'm not saying that because personally, I think that the draft was exciting. I think that they went and they drafted players, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I think they drafted players that were going to help them compete in the NFC East. But the biggest hole in the room was the wide receiver room. Like, who is going to be the number 2 receiver? And there was a bunch of talk about maybe Amari Cooper coming back, possibly signing Keenan Allen. That was a possibility. And Rashawn Bateman's name kept coming up as well. But George Pickens, his name was kind of there, and then it wasn't. And then the talks kind of heated up about George Pickens, and nobody really knew what was going on. And that was the biggest news in Cowboy world for the last couple of days. And then this morning, it finally became a reality. Now, I do have some questions, and I'm sure that this stuff will be answered here in the near future. George Pickens comes in, solid wide receiver, put up some, pretty good numbers, has 1,000-yard season in his 3 years in the NFL, had a 900-yard season last year, only in 14 games. And I'll show you the stats so you can see it for yourself. Pickens is a solid wide receiver, and a lot of his output has been, I guess, for lack of better terms, marred by mediocre quarterback play. His rookie season, 52 receptions for 801 yards, 4 touchdowns. 2023 had 63 catches for 1,140 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then last year, in only 14 games, he had 59 catches for 900 yards for 3 touchdowns. But you can see his yards per catch, his average, his yards per catch average. I had a hard time saying that. Rookie year, 15.4 yards per catch. 2023, 18.1 yards a catch. And then last year, he had 15.3 yards a catch. And, all this is coming with not the best quarterback play. Last year started the season with Justin Fields. They didn't really throw the ball a lot. And Russell Wilson came in. Him and Russell Wilson really built kind of a connection together. And George went out with a bad ankle. But he's got this flair about him. He's a ultra competitive dude. And I know a lot of people remember when he was in college and he got into the altercation with the wide receiver, with the corner from Georgia Tech, and threw him into the wall. That's just kind of him. And then even last year, him and Jordan Lewis got into it at the end of the game. Jordan Lewis kind of taunted him a little bit, and he grabbed Jordan Lewis and threw him down on the ground by his face mask. That's just kind of him. He's an edgy dude. And I don't think that that's such a bad thing. I think that you kind of need that player. Sometimes you need an edgy guy on your team. I think that he will come in clearly as the number 2 receiver, so there won't be any questions there, but he'll come in and he'll have a great wide receiver one to learn from in CeeDee Lamb. And I'm pretty sure that, and I'm almost for certain that they'll all kind of take him under his wing and just kind of guide him in a direction and show him the way that I guess the Cowboys kind of do things. And speaking of that, Brian Schottenheimer's been, in the news lately. One of the things that he's been doing that I personally think is an excellent thing is he's been kind of moving the locker room around, moving players around, put Micah Parsons next to Dak Prescott. Not really concerned about offensive and defensive players being on one side of the room and the other. He's kind of putting leaders together, man, so they can sit close to each other, get to know one another, kind of talk things out. And I think that that's an excellent way to run your football team. I was super skeptical about Brian Schottenheimer, and in some ways, like football aspect of it, I am. But his leadership style seems to be working with his team, and that's super important. And I feel like that's something that the Cowboys haven't had in a long time, either as a player, a coach that actually engages with the players and guides the players and kind of shows them the right way to do things. Even if it's not on the football field, just right things to do things. Just as leaders. And he says all the right things, man. He's doing all the right things. It just seems like the team is kind of pointing in a different direction, and it's a good thing. The Cowboys did a rookie camp this past week, and there was a lot of positive things that came out of it. Jalen Blue's quickness, the leadership of Tyler Booker. And if you look at the list of the rookies, man, they've got a really, really, really solid draft class. In the first round, they picked Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama, had to fill the hole for Zach Martin, and I think this is a good guy to fill it with. He only gave up 3 sacks his entire college career, and I was interested, like. In the SEC, Alabama, Georgia's huge rivalry. And I wanted to see, when or where he gave up these sacks. He gave up no sacks last year, and that's phenomenal. I wanted to go back and look, and it's funny because all 3 sacks he gave up was his freshman year. And all 3 sacks that he gave up was against Georgia. And if you go back and actually look at the game film, like, the 3 sacks that he gave up because Jalen Carter was on him. Now, you drafted a guy essentially to stop Jalen Carter and the Philadelphia Eagles because this division is tough, right? And the Eagles are the leaders of the pack. The leaders of the pack in the entire NFL. They won the Super Bowl. Jalen Carter is the leader of that defense. You drafted this guy to stop Jalen Carter. I don't care how you look at it. No matter what, if Tatora McMillan wasn't there, and they clearly said, if he wasn't there, they were going to draft Tyler Booker. This was their guy. Excellent choice. I'm not mad at it. Donovan Ezaraku, to me, is probably the steal of the entire draft. First round guy, slipped down to the second round. Cowboys picked him up, teamed him up with Micah Parsons and Sam Williams, and I'll show you some roster stuff where I kind of made up a little roster, and I don't know. This is kind of my early 53-man roster, but these 2 at defensive end will be okay. Siobhan Reveal is another guy that could be a tremendous steal. Excellent corner coming off ACL injury. All the reports coming out of minicamp, this dude is running around. He's working out. Not full participant, but a limited participant coming off an ACL injury. Taking his rehab serious. A lot of talk in the locker room about a lot of these guys taking their rehab serious this year, including Trayvon Diggs, which is a great thing. I'm really, really excited about Siobhan Reveal because I think that he can be an excellent cornerback in the NFL, and it would be great to have 3 solid corners on the roster just in case you lose one of them, because Deron Bland is coming to his contract year as well. And if he has another season like he's been having, that's not minus the injuries. If he has another season like he's been having in his NFL career, he's gonna cost a lot of money. Is what he's gonna do. Jaden Blue in the 5th round. Jaden Blue was one of the running backs that I said in some previous episodes that could be a pick that they maybe would get, strictly because he kind of gives them that Tony Pollard-esque type of back. He's super duper fast, 4.29 40. And everybody in this rookie camp, you read about this rookie camp they're having, that one thing they keep saying is like, this dude is fast, like super quick. One step, put his foot in the ground, he's gone. Different type of back. Something that since Tony Pollard left, last year, we didn't have that type of back. And I think that he makes the roster. We'll talk about that in a second. Shamar James, Agent Cornelius, Jay Toyer, all, Phil Maffa. Phil Maffa gives you another type of running back, a power back, guy that can put his foot in the ground and get you 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Productive career at Clemson. Just an all-around good running back. Not great, doesn't do anything spectacular, but he will put his head down and get you 3 or 4 yards and be that power back that you need. And then, you like all of these defensive tackles. I hope that people realize that all these defensive tackles, they're going to play. Like, they have to play. And they have to do a good job. Undrafted players, they got picked up. All of these guys got signed, and you can see I put this on here because I thought it was kind of interesting, like the just them coming on the roster as undrafted free agents. You get paid a little money, man. It's not bad. Yeah, and it's not great, but it's not bad. The one guy on this list that I think is very, very good, is Trayshawn Holden. Trayshawn Holden was super productive at Alabama, went to Oregon, had a bad beginning of the season, but then became super productive at Oregon as well. Josh Kelly, another guy from Texas Tech, super duper productive wide receiver at Georgia Tech, super productive. Man, it's going okay. It is going. Work's got me bogged down, but I got to get better at making time for this. It's not that serious. I do, because I miss this. I need to do this more often. But work is just work. I got to pay the bills, right? But anyway, Josh Kelly, super productive wide receiver at Texas Tech, goes out in a pro day and runs a 4.740. And that's slow. That is super slow. Trayshawn Holden, another guy that was productive. Speed not that great, 4.57. But one thing about Trayshawn Holden that you'll see, and even though Josh Kelly always seems to be open, Trayshawn Holden knows how to find creases in the zone and get there and get open and give his quarterback a target to throw to. I truly and honestly think that Trayshawn Holden is going to take somebody's job on this roster. I do. Don't know whose, but it's going to be somebody's. Excellent wide receiver. I just think that he can make the roster. Rookie camp has been ultra productive. A lot of talk about Tyler Booker's leadership. Jaden Blue said, and I quote, "It is an honor to be on the same field as this dude." Fantastic work coming from the rookie camp. Fantastic work. Sounds like good leadership skills. And that's what we need. Oh, yeah, man. Life is life, and for sure. You ain't lying. Life is lifing. But it's okay, man. We all got to go through these trials and tribulations in order to get to the point where we want to be, right? We got to. And, just keep trucking. This stuff, is temporary, especially the stuff that I'm going through, man. It's temporary. It's just a lot of things are happening at one time. We made a major move, and now we gotta fix that move. You know what I'm saying? And once we get that stuff going and we get back into a regular cadence, man, I think life will slow down for a lot of people. And but right now, it's not going that great. Blue could be our version of A-Chain. Agreed. I agree with that 100%. I think that at the University of Texas, he was their version of A-Chain as well. He came in there to hit home runs. Trey Wisner was your back that comes in from 20 to 20 and gets you the tough yards. Jaden Blue was the guy that came in and hit home runs. That's what he was there for. And I believe that that's what he can do on this roster as well. I truly do. And I like the pick. I think the pick is excellent. The only major concern that I think that the Cowboys have now, and if you look at the roster, and we've been kind of looking at this for, months, is the holes that needed to be filled on the roster. Running back, wide receiver, your 3 technique, your nose tackle, your edges, and your inside linebackers. And the Cowboys filled those holes. And they filled the holes with decent players. traded for 2 running backs. I'm not sure how many with in Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. Not sure if both of them make the roster because Jalen Blue is kind of like Miles Sanders, just a younger version. And drafting Blue does mean buy the Deuce, and we'll get into that in just a second. I want the Deuce to make the roster because I'm a Deuce Vaughn fan. I'm a Deuce Vaughn fan. I think that he's an excellent player. Little undersized, not even a little undersized. He's way undersized, but highly productive in college. And when he comes into the games for Dallas, you can see that the ability is there. I just don't think that the Cowboys use that ability correctly. And maybe Schottenheimer can do it. I'm not sure. He'll get a lot of opportunities in training camp. I tell you that. He'll get a lot of opportunities to prove himself, and maybe he can bump one of these running backs off the roster, but it's going to be tough. Super tough. Your medium needs: guard, tackle, center, safety, cornerback. They got a cornerback. They got a guard. Didn't really touch center or tackle, and because you drafted a tackle last year in the first round, he's going to have to do it, right? And to be honest, we'll look at it in just a second. I don't think that the offensive line is that bad. I really don't. I think it's decent. You're going to have to run block well with this offense, especially with the way Schottenheimer has called offenses in the past. You're going to have to run block well. And I think play action will open it up. The one concern, I think the major concern for everybody really was who is going to be the other receiver that's going to complement CeeDee Lamb and take some of the heat off of CD and open up this offense. And I truly believe that you got that today in George Pickens. His numbers weren't that great, but he got 1,000-yard and a 900-yard receiving year. Doesn't have not a lot of catches, but his yards per catch are fabulous, right? Suffered a lot from mediocre quarterback play. I believe, he comes in, gets some continuity with Dak, and this thing has the ability. On paper, it looks like this thing can take off. Just got to find a way not to mess it up. Just to be honest, you got to find a way not to mess this up. So, is the roster complete? And that's a great question, and I think that's a question that a lot of people have going into the offseason. OTA start on the 19th, I believe. I believe they start May the 19th. And you start working this thing out. You start putting in offenses, and then, you got May, June, and at the end of July, you're going into training camp. This team is going to Oxnard. You're about 90 days away from being in Oxnard. 100 days away from being in Oxnard. You have an entire new offense to put in. I'm pretty sure that it'll be similar to what they were running before because this offense probably had a little Marty Schottenheimer, a little Brian Schottenheimer-esque to it, even though McCarthy was calling the plays. I'm sure it'll be similar. I'm sure it'll be a different philosophy, right, the way the plays are called, but I'm sure that the offense will be similar. The defense, however, is probably going to be totally new. Eberflus, excellent defensive coach. He had a good defense in Chicago every year he was there. It's just they were tired because they were on the field 3/4 of the time. Got a new defense to put in. These guys got to get some continuity. Last year, the first game of the season, the defense looked excellent. And we all thought like, hey, man, this thing is going to take off. And then everything just kind of fell off the cliff until the end of the season when they started getting the continuity with it. You got to get it faster this year. And that's just going to come with stopping the run. Like, you have to stop the run. You need to stop the run from week 1 to week 17, 18, however many games there are now. 17 games, 18 weeks. You got to stop the run. And I believe that this is what the roster will look like. So at quarterback, you'll have Dak Prescott, Joe Milton, and Will Grier. It'll be a battle for the backup spot. I think Joe Milton will win it. You traded for him. You traded a pretty high draft pick for him. I think that he'll be the backup. Dak has done a lot in the last 2 years. He's gonna have to prove his leadership. Offensively, if the O-line is good, the most talented offensive on paper in the last 4 years. Agreed, especially with the addition of Pickens. Pickens is a dynamic dude. He makes difficult catches, great after the catch, and he's available, right? He's not injury prone. The dude gives you talent to where you can't double cover CeeDee Lamb or he's going to tear you apart. The main thing that concerns me, Larry, is that I would like for him to build continuity with the quarterback. Sometimes the quarterback, especially with new receivers on the roster, like he never built that continuity with Brandon Cooks. He never did. And maybe the Cowboys call bad routes for Brandon Cooks. I mean, every time you look, Brandon Cooks was running that 10-yard curl, and he ran that 10-yard curl for 2 seasons. I mean, you have to have some type of dynamic. You have to have something where you're scheming these wide receivers open. You're going to have to call some plays for Pickens. You're going to have to call plays for CeeDee Lamb. I believe he just takes the pressure off of everybody. Everybody last year knew where the ball was going, and CeeDee Lamb still had a phenomenal season with 3 quarterbacks. Protect your quarterback, build you some continuity, and this offense will be super duper dangerous. Run the ball, run the football. Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, Phil Moffitt, and Hunter Lemke. I truly believe that those will be the 4 running backs that will be on the roster. I don't think Miles Austin makes the team. I don't think Deuce Vaughn makes the team either. CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin, Mingo, Florin, and Trayshawn Holden, and now you put in George Pickens, and that's your receiver room. One of these guys got to go. I hope it's not Mingo, but I just don't think Trayshawn Holden. I think he can make it. He may be able to take Florin's spot and move Florin to the practice squad, but Pickens on here, I just think that this receiving core is pretty dangerous. Please find a way to get Kevontae Turpin involved in the offense. You don't have to send him on the same deep route as the wide receiver every single time he's on the field. Line him up in the slot. Give him something where he can put his foot in the ground and make some guys miss it, because in the secondary, he's a dangerous, dangerous dude. You have to find a way to scheme him open too. 3 tight ends, nothing different from last year. Guyton, Smith, Beebe, Booker, Steele, Richards, Cornelius, TJ Bass, and Brock Hoffman are your offensive linemen. On defense, Parsons, Odigizua, Mozzie Smith, Dante Fowler, Ezraku, Williams, Nealon, Thomas, and Toya are your defensive linemen. Super interested to see what Sam Williams is going to do coming off an injury. He got injured early. He got injured the first day of training camp in a non-contact, no pads, no nothing injury. He should be ready to go. Kenneth Murray, Lou Fowl, Damone Clark, Shamar James, Jack Sanborn, and middle linebacker, and Overshown to be on the PUP list. Josh Butler be on the PUP list as well. Diggs, Bland, Carson, Ravel, Elam, and C.J. Godwin are your corners, and your safeties are Wilson, Malik Hooker, Israel Mukuamu, Marquise Bell, and Wanye Thomas. The roster doesn't look that bad. Could they make some moves? Sure. I believe they'll make some moves, particularly at the defensive tackle spot. Mozzie Smith, it's going to be a put up or shut up, probably OTA, training camp, everything for Mozzie Smith. I don't know how you can't go another year and keep doing the things that you're doing. You can't. He's going to have to make some type of impact, and it's going to have to be a big impact, and I believe that impact is going to have to be earlier. He's just going to be a rotational player, and that's a shame for a first-round pick. But you win some and you lose some. And I've said it on here 50 million times. Michigan defensive linemen and the Dallas Cowboys just for some reason do not work out. They don't. You took a chance with Mozzie Smith. It hasn't worked out so far. Hopefully he's getting better this offseason. Haven't really heard a lot about him. The only thing that you hear about him in news clippings or anything is that it's a put up or shut up year for him. That's it. Larry said Pickens legitimate deep threat through his career. Been one of the best deep threats in the league. Huge catch radius. Not only does he have a huge catch radius, he makes some phenomenal catches that on balls that it doesn't even look like he can get to. If he can get one pinky on the ball, kind of Odell Beckham-esque, you know what I'm saying? He's going to make a play. One of the knocks has always been like he he will be diva-esque if he's not getting the ball, right? He will do that. Don't think that that'll be a problem here. I really don't. I think with the team that he was on, I just don't think that the quarterbacks that he had, with the exception of Russell Wilson last year for the last half of the season, I don't think he had quarterbacks that could get him the ball on a consistent basis anyway. Dak can get him the football. As long as Dak is healthy, I believe he'll do fine. I believe he'll get a lot of work with Joe Milton too, because Milton will play a lot during the preseason, a whole lot. And I just don't think that Dak's going to play during the preseason at all. Yeah, he's had bad quarterback play his whole career. Exactly. I think that's been one of the things that has kept George Pickens from being an elite wide receiver. You'll get good quarterback play here as long as you can keep him upright, and that's all going to depend on the offensive line. But I think that he'll be protected a lot this year because of the running back room. Running back room is not bad. You got 2 young running backs, and you got a veteran running back in Javonte Williams, who I believe will be the starter. You got 2 young running backs that are going to come in and they're going to be hungry and going to run hard. Lemke comes in. Lemke's excellent in the backfield. He's an excellent lead blocker. He's also an excellent receiver coming out of the backfield. I believe that Pickens not only opens up CeeDee Lamb, but it'll open up your tight ends as well. And I expect Ferguson to do Ferguson things this year. And Schoonmaker, when Ferguson was out last year, Schoonmaker didn't play bad. And Brevin Spann-Ford kind of came on this roster as an undrafted dude and kind of took a spot as that third tight end. Said Wilson never throws over the middle. And he don't throw over the middle. He just throws outside the hashes. That's all he does. Pickens gives you that type of wide receiver. He come across the middle. He's not afraid of that. And if you watch him play, him and CeeDee Lamb, their game is similar. He's not as polished as CeeDee Lamb is yet, but I believe he can be. I just don't think he's had the opportunity to do it yet. But anyway, I think this whole offense is all predicated on this offensive line and how good that they can build some sort of continuity within themselves. If they can block this thing up, if they can figure out a way to block it up, and you can get these running backs rolling, man, these receivers can have big years, and your tight end can have a big year, and your quarterback can have a big year. And then on the defense, this defensive line is going to be the key. You got to stop the run. Overshown will be out for a while, so you go and get Kenneth Murray, excellent outside linebacker that can run around and do Overshown things. I think Overshown is a little bit better, but Murray will come in and fill that gap until Overshown comes back. You come in with the same safeties that you had last year. And a lot of times, I said it throughout the season last year, Donovan Wilson come up and he can be your enforcer. He can be the guy that lays the wood to somebody, but he also can be a liability in coverage. Malik Hooker also has a tendency to disappear. Hopefully some of these younger guys can step in like Wanye Thomas, come in and take a job. Your cornerback situation is going to be kind of shaky at first. You got 2 cornerbacks. You drafted a really talented guy, right, that's coming off an ACL injury. Your cornerback that's been your number 1 corner for the last couple of years, he's coming off an ACL injury and then a freak injury last year where he had to have some bone placed in his knee to improve flexibility. Nobody knows how that's going to work out, and I truly believe that that's why they drafted Ravel. This team has the potential to be really, really good, right? And it all depends on how the coaching staff puts this thing together and gets it rolling. You got to keep these guys healthy. OTAs, guys going to be all out, in training camp. Things are going to happen where somebody's going to get hurt. But that's football. Those things are going to happen. Build your depth. In a lot of positions, these guys got depth now. They've got a pretty decent roster, man. It's not bad. Do I think it's complete? For now, yeah, I think it is pretty complete. Will they make some additions to it? I believe they'll probably make some additions to the defensive line, particularly the defensive tackles, and maybe add a corner somewhere. But I think you got what you're going to get. Can this compete in the NFC East, which has the Super Bowl champion? He's got the Super Bowl champ. Said Jerry went out and got a wide out. Why? Yeah, he did. Woke up and chose violence this morning, man down. And I ain't mad at him for it. What is the thing about the roster is, and I lost my train of thought, my bad. But the thing about this roster is that you've got some minor holes now. Your major hole is filled. You had to take the pressure off CeeDee Lamb. You had to make Dak. You had to make Dak into a quarterback that has a 2 wide receiver option instead of 1, and whoever's filling that other hole. And I believe it opens up the offense. The defense is going to be the question. The defense it's been the question. It was the question last year, the big question mark last year, and it'll be the question mark going into this season as well. But if you can figure out a way to stop the run, I think you have guys on this roster that can definitely put pressure on opposing quarterbacks and put some pressure on the Eagles and the Commanders. I was about to call them the Redskins, the Commanders. You've got the Super Bowl champs. You've got the NFC runner-up in the same division. No team has won this division twice in a row in the last 20 years or however long it's been. Washington seems like they would be the next team up to win the division. But I think that this Cowboy roster, as long as you got it in the right direction, I think that they can be ultra competitive. Florida Reptile says he's still not sure about the defense. Defensive tackles, linebackers, safeties, and cornerback. Shit, that's the whole damn defense, Florida. Defensive tackles, I agree, 100%. Linebackers, I think they'll be okay, right? I think the linebacker room is competitive. I think there's Sanborn's a good addition in middle linebacker. If you watch him in Chicago last year, all the dude did was stick his nose in there and stop the run. He had 120-something tackles last year. Outside linebackers with Murray and Lufau. Lufau runs around, always around the ball. Seems like he's progressing into being a good player. Overshown will eventually be back. Hopefully he'll be as good as he was before, and that'll kind of solidify that. The corners, I agree with you 100%. Bland is your cornerback number 1. Diggs, if he can come off this injury, who knows? Ravel, seems like everything is going well with his rehab, and he seems to be the leader of the pack that's going to come out of that rehab room and be ready to go first. But you are coming off an ACL injury, and that's a knee injury, and it's not going to be easy. Safeties, I just think you can do better at free safety. I think you can do better than Malik Hook at free safety. He kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Covers decent, okay, you know what I mean? Still gets beat deep sometimes. Steps up sometimes in the run, but not really. Donovan Wilson, at least you know he's going to come up and he can be an enforcer. He'll lay the hat to you. He'll do that. Will he get beaten coverage? Yeah, he'll get beaten coverage. I think that that's the biggest question mark. The other ones, they're okay. Cowboys roster better than Washington's. I agree. I think that the Cowboys roster is significantly better than Washington's now, right? And they added Deebo Samuel. That's cool. I don't know. He's a decent receiver. I think Deebo Samuel, his biggest weapon is that he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can do a whole lot of different things. But as far as being afraid of Deebo Samuel in one-on-one coverage and him just blowing the roof off the place and scoring multiple touchdowns in the game, I'm not overly concerned about that. Not really. I think that the Cowboy defensive ends, with the defensive ends that they have now, as long, agreed, for I think he might be washed too. As long as they can get some teams in some passing situations, man, with Ezra Raku, Micah Parsons, and Sam Williams and Marshawn Nealon, I think you can add tremendous pressure to quarterbacks with those 4, and you can rotate them. You know what I'm saying? And now you can rotate these defensive ends and keep them fresh. Run situations, you put Nealon in on the defensive end. When it comes to passing, you put these fast boys in there and you let them get after the quarterback, man, and let them do their thing. Super duper dangerous. This team can be really good. And shout out to Jerry for doing something good for the first time in 10 years, but he did something good. Woke up this morning and said, I'm going to go get me one, and went and got it. It just all depends on how the coaches put this thing together, man. That's all it depends on. And we'll see more coming up in the next few weeks in OTAs. You'll get some glimpses of what type of offense they're going to run. You'll get some glimpses of what type of defense they're going to line up in, and see what they're going to do. See what type of philosophies that these guys have. Eberflus seems like he's like a 4-3 guy. He's going to bend but don't break, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? As long as you're scoring touchdowns. If I'm giving them field goals all game and we scoring touchdowns, shit, we're going to win. You know what I'm saying? And that's the most important thing, is that you're going to have to put points on the board and you're going to have to stop some people. And you're going to have to keep these offenses from going on these 17 and 18 play drives or going on 2 play drives where you give up a 70-yard run up the middle for a touchdown. That shit can't happen no more. It can't. Not if you're going to be competitive. It's a good roster. That's all I'm trying to say. I like it. I like it a lot. But we'll see what happens. We'll see. As long as they can keep everybody healthy and don't have an injury-riddled season like they did last year, I think they'll be okay. This draft class is pretty decent. A lot of people didn't like it. I like it. I think it was picked to compete in the NFC East. That's what it was made to do. And I think they didn't draft the wide receiver because I think they had a little trick up their sleeve the whole time. And I think that the two players that they were going after the entire time was George Pickens and Rashad Bateman from Baltimore. They didn't get one, so they got the other. And I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all. Okay, y'all. It's getting late. I will be back here on Saturday, and we'll talk some more about the roster. We'll talk about what I think may be some offensive and defensive philosophy for the team. I think that I kind of have an understanding of how Schottenheimer does things. I just went back and watched some Jacksonville stuff and kind of understand it. And, Trevor Lawrence played decent enough football for him to get a big contract when he was under Schottenheimer. And that's the last big example we had of it. When he was here in Dallas, a lot of people, just forgot who Brian Schottenheimer was because McCarthy was the one that was calling the plays. But yeah, we'll talk about that stuff. And I think the roster will be good. I think it'll be solid. You know what I mean? It'll be competitive. And as long as you can stay healthy, right, and keep the bunch, as healthy as you possibly can, it is football, man. Players are going to get dinged up. I think they have a really good shot of being a playoff team, at least. You know what I'm saying? A playoff team. I'm not saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl, not yet, but I think that they'll be competitive. And that's the key right now, is are you going to put a competitive roster? You taking a competitive roster into training camp and into the regular season. And I think they accomplished that. I do. Okay, guys, Saturday, we'll talk a little bit more about the roster. We'll talk about some more Cowboy news. And, yeah, man, I'm excited about being back. Been gone for too long. Excited about being back. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you guys soon. We'll see you on Saturday. All right, y'all. Have a great night and go Cowboys. All right, peace.